lessons. We have 2 weeks here to go, and we'll be all done with our summer swimming program. And then be much in prayer for the camp as we wrap up the final weeks of camp. Any other announcements that need to be made? We're going to ask our ushers to come forward. We had a good offering this morning. We were able to give $1,200 to the ministry of the Riberos, and we thank the Lord for his provision. Brother Bill, would you ask the Lord's blessing, please, on the offering?
Our Father, we do thank you for your great grace and your love and your mercy to us. We thank you for the gift that we have through your Son, the Lord Jesus Christ. As we come and give our gifts and offerings back into the ministry upon this earth, we pray that they would be used for the furtherance of the gospel, the glory and the honor of the Lord Jesus Christ. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Just a reminder to those ladies in the Hearts and Hands about the cards. We have still a few of those still out, and they're going to be coming on Tuesday to pick those up. Thank you so much for filling those in and giving encouraging words and thoughts as well as scripture verses. And so for those that are remaining out, make sure you turn that in by tomorrow. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you all for your prayers and support while we were away. It was long and tiring. Maybe that's what we say about our trips. It's always early in the morning and late into the evening. And so if you're with Dr. Alvarez, it's always late night coffees and talking and preparing for the next day. And then it's 2 in the morning all of a sudden, and we're sitting there like this. Oh, let's get up. Yeah, we had a wonderful time. We got to see some things that we haven't seen before, and I'm glad that Bea and Haley were able to go. I appreciate all of y'all's support for them to help them raise the money to do that, and I know that it was a tremendous blessing for them, right, Bea? All right. Bea's not going to say anything, I don't think. She's scared to death, but if you want to, you can interrupt me anytime. I'm sure I forgot about half the stuff. I tried to write it down. But so we... Again, went with a missions team to France and Italy this year, and it was through the YOM Youth Outreach Ministries in Pensacola. Dr. Alvarez leads groups every year and organizes them, starting really in like September, October. He starts planning and preparing teams and interviewing team members, and we also had Miss Heather Harkoff. Us three have done it before, and so we're a good team together. Heather keeps us straight because we get a little crazy, and so she keeps us on, no, we got to do this, and we got to do this. But we only bring her because she writes all the updates. So we don't want to write them. So, no. If you were able to follow along on the YOM page, it's still up. A lot of the updates are up there. And even the last page was a really good update where every single member of the team gave it, that has their picture and has a testimony that was there as well. And so we all took the students from PCC. We met at JFK and then flew over to Paris, where we met some other people, including Dr. Alvarez's son, Sammy, who's here tonight. I joked with him the whole time about he flies first class, and he probably took a private jet and a helicopter. No, he doesn't. But he's single and he can just do what he wants. So we really enjoyed him coming and being on the trip, helping out. He drove one of the vehicles for us and helped out with some of the groups, and I really appreciate him being able to be a part of that trip as well. So I'm just basically going to go through. I have a slide for each day, and I'm just going to quickly show you some pictures and just talk briefly about some of the things that we did, and I'll get you out of here. It won't be any long 2-hour type thing. I know you guys would get sick of that. And I'm using Canva instead of PowerPoint, so I don't know what I'm doing. Click an arrow, and it didn't work, Megan. Oh, there it is. All right. I don't know how to work Canva. All right, so the first 2 days obviously are travel days, and so we left. This picture right here, y'all can you kill the first lights, Isaac? Maybe they'll help see better. I know this is Bea, Caroline, and Haley at 3:30 in the morning on Saturday. Notice who's not in that picture? Me. And why am I not in that picture? because I hate mornings and you're not taking my picture and don't talk to me. I'm going to go stand in line, put my bag in, and just drink coffee in peace. So they were all, Caroline, I'm going to strangle you. No. But it was a fun car ride at 3 a.m., and we made it to Pensacola, and then we flew over to JFK, and we basically meet the team at JFK all day. They all gather from different parts of the country, all the students. We met at JFK, and we were there most of the day, and I think around, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the evening is when we flew to Paris. So, we land, in our minds, it's midnight. Saturday night, it's midnight in our minds, but yet you get there, and it's Sunday morning at 7 o'clock. So the day is just starting again. So you've been up, since 2 in the morning, and then it's long and very tiring to get there and get back and recover because it just never stops. You just keep going. So we were able to get into Paris, and then we all met together, got our luggage. We were able to get the rental cars, and we stayed at the same place that we stayed at last year. It's actually an old monastery in a little city called Mary-sur-Marne, and it's kind of out in the countryside of France, a really beautiful area. That area has tons of champagne, grape type fields. That's where they harvest all that. So they have groups that come to that location where we stayed. It houses, what did he say, almost 200 people? So they have workers come from Europe that stay there to work in those vineyards during the high season. But since it's a low season, we're able to stay there. It's a really nice facility, beautiful. It's a former monastery. The guys there, they run the place. They do all the cooking, keep things clean, and it was really nice to be able to stay there. So we arrived there. Finally, we all met together. It was a group of 32 of us. So I think about 20 students or so, then some leaders. We had some others from France that met us. Here is Didier, the famous or infamous Didier. He's the pastor from Marseille that we met with last year, and he helped organize the trip from the European side. Communicated with Dr. Alvarez, organized all the things that we were going to do in France with the pastors, and also organizing some things of what we were going to do in Italy. I'll show pictures of Larry and Marie later, but they were also there. They're actually retired missionaries. They had been in France for many years, and they were actually in France visiting. And Dr. Alvarez found out about that and coordinated with them for them to be able to spend a week with us and help us driving, and more people that know French, the better. And so it was a good, they were older, retired missionaries, but we really enjoyed being around them, and just hearing their testimonies, their spirit for the Lord was a tremendous blessing to the team. So here in these pictures, the top left, when we got there was another group that was still there, so they fed us a lunch outside, a little cookout. They had these sausages, and they believe in burning them like black as tar, which I don't mind. I like it that way. But they were really good. We had an outdoor lunch, and we just kind of got settled in for the day, tried to catch up on what day it was and where we were. And then in the evening, we had a music practice for the concert and other things that we were going to be singing. The Didier was the taskmaster of music practices, and so we had to break him of that and get him to chill a little bit. And then we had a little brief service together. We sang some songs, and I'll talk about it later, but there was a lot of people on the team that had some musical talent, and it was a blessing. Just they would have spontaneous, just gathering around the piano and singing, or the guitars and things that they play with that we were going to play with in the streets. It was just a wonderful time of fellowship and worship. I preached a small message. I do not even actually remember what I preached on. It seems so long ago, and I was so tired. But it was something, wasn't it, B? I said something. That was something. No one, she was half asleep. No one heard a word I said. I just talked. But it was a good time. And so that first picture of him on the next slide, he's been in that area or in ministry with his wife since 1984, I believe is what he said. So 40 years they've been in ministry there. And he is a church that I'll show you in just a few minutes. And he knows a lot of different locations there. And he kind of guided us to different locations and helped us with the ministries that we were going to do over those next few days. Here is I put it on a little map. So the first little dot on the right, that's Mary-sur-Marne, that's where the monastery is. And then the big blob in the middle, that's Paris. So we drove to Paris, and then we drove all the way over here to the left. That's Cahagnes, that city there. And there was several towns and villages and things in that whole region that we were able to visit, with that being our hub area. And Eric Hosak kind of guided us through that. So it wasn't nearly as much driving as it was last time. We were in the car, 10, 11, 12 hours for a complete day, it seemed, and driving, and watching out for those speed cameras and all those things. So good times. All right, so the fourth day, we were able to take our first trip into Normandy. So here's Pastor Hosak right here. I just love the guy. He just seems like just a grandfatherly, I don't know, almost like Santa Claus. It was kind of funny because he's known for his laugh. I mean, he'll just be preaching. He would do devotionals every morning. After breakfast, he would give us a challenge and things. Are really, really good, excellent, encouraging. And he would be talking, and all of a sudden, in the middle of his talking, he would just kind of laughed. I was like, man, it was just awesome. I loved him. He was just such a jovial, just kind, genuine man, just serving the Lord there for 40 years, and it was a blessing to be a part of his ministry. So he took us to Normandy. It's about 15, 20 miles, but it took 45, 50 minutes on the back roads to get there. And we went right out and got to stand on Omaha Beach. It was, I mean, to me as an American, it was just quite the thing to think about. Huge cookout prepared. I'm talking, they were grilling, hamburgers, hot dogs, and steak, and all kinds of good things, sausages, and they had a table spread. You can see the theme of this trip is food, right? Food and coffee, no. But it was a wonderful time of fellowship to intermingle with those believers, those Christians. They had kids, older adults, and they were all just, intermingling. We got to meet a lot of them, share stories and different testimonies and things. It was a blessing to fellowship with them. We even sang at the end several songs. They sang some songs in South African language, Christian, and then we ended with, I think it was the doxology that we ended with. And that was really neat to everybody just fellowshipping together and singing the doxology. And then they jumped back in their cars, and as quick as they had come, they left. So it was neat. They just were hitting different mission things that they were doing. And we were able to fellowship with them and meet them. And we had dinner that night. So again, the main thing that we were able to do in Normandy was to get those Gospels of Luke out to people. And it was supposed to culminate here in day 6. We actually went to the town of Bayeux, back to where the church is. The Olympic torch was literally going through that city that day. So we were able to line up in the streets when the time came, and we were literally able to see the corner where we were standing right here is where they lit the one girl's torch, and then she just turned and started running right past us. It was kind of cool to be able to witness that. But we met there at the church in the morning, and we were, Pastor Hosak gave us a little tour of that city. There's a lot of history there. There's a cathedral there that was just unbelievable. We were able to see some of the sights of that city, go into that cathedral and visit that. And then when all the crowds started coming in, we were going to start going through the streets and handing out those Gospels of Luke, just to random people. Just, here, take this. There were other people out there doing the same thing, handing, here's a flyer for this, or whatever it might be. The local police had no problem with it. But unfortunately that day, because the torch was in, the national police were in the city, and they stopped us and said, you're not allowed to distribute that. So we said, well, maybe they mean right here. So we started walking away to other areas, and we thought maybe we can do it here, and they stopped us again. So we were like, we're not going to try to get a bunch of 20-year-old American students arrested on a mission trip. Alvarez and I'd be famous for that for sure, but we'd be behind bars. Like, well, okay. But so we decided it'd be better not to press that. And then when the crowds dispersed as we were walking back to the church, we were able to hand a few more out when things were kind of winding down. They just didn't want anything to detract from the Olympic torch thing that was going on there. And that was Alvarez's favorite day because he sat in a laundromat there in the city and did, I don't know how many loads of laundry. I have no idea. There was, Tara, you and your Gators rags, you'd have been right there with him. I mean, it was a row of washers and dryers, and he just kept, and each bag was individually labeled. I mean, there was 30 bags, 25 bags, and he just kept tapping that credit card, and then it declined his card because it had so many transactions. So then I had to give him mine, and it was just unbelievable. And he did it on purpose because with the YOM credit cards, we have to go on the online portal, and we have to allocate every receipt and do this process. And he was laughing because I had hundreds of laundromat ones, and he was like, ha, 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 ha. Sat there, yeah. Fun times. That's like you with the credit card bill, Chris. Yeah, it was the same thing. But he got to enjoy. He said, I don't care about an Olympic torch, whatever. I'll do laundry. So he did laundry all day. And but it was just a beautiful town. We were able to hand out some Bibles, visit the church again. Pastor Hosak that morning gave the students a presentation about Eric Liddell. I know many of you have heard about Eric Liddell, the famous Olympic runner, and he gave a presentation to the students on that. And then we were able to go, again, that's my typical garb in Normandy, frozen. So double hood, shaking. And everybody else is like, oh, whatever. And they have hair, I don't. So, but it was just these little towns are just unbelievably gorgeous, just quaint little villages and, the cobblestone streets and the old houses. And we got to visit a lot of those things, hand out a lot of Bibles. Just pray that people would read them. And there are hundreds of those Bibles. I don't know if people grab them and threw them away. I have no idea. Maybe one or two were able to say, what is this? And maybe read it. Maybe a child in the house would be able to pick one up and read it. So we just pray that that witness would continue to go forth there in the Normandy region. We were also joined, by the way, with Matthew and Jonathan, the same two young men from Didier's church. Now, they're in Marseille. They actually came and went on the trip with us again. And, of course, the more French speakers, the better. And they're always a lot of fun. They love interacting with the students. They're actually math teachers at schools in Marseille, but they have been with Didier and his church since they were little boys when the family came to Christ. And they've been a blessing to be a part of our teams as well. All right, day 7, we are going to now go back to the Paris region, back to that monastery, but kind of on the way back, but 2 hours out of the way. We went to another town where they had a Bible